Thanks for tuning in to Beyond This Point Ministries with me, Joyce Oglesby. I appreciate your emails and invite you to talk with me about issues you may be facing with relationships. So grab a pen and paper and jot down my website information at the end of this show. I talk to many people who are failing at love. Consequently, they pretty much feel they're failing at life as well. They're completely wrapped up in misery at work, at church if they go, with their children when kids are involved, their extended family, and their social life. They feel as though all they do is whine to their friends and they don't even like living inside their own skin. To what can we attribute such turmoil, unrest, and anxiety in one's life? Why is it so difficult just to love? Because when there's an imbalance in love, everything else seems out of kilter too. Love seems like it should be easy. It seems it would come easy enough anyway. You meet someone, your chemistry connects, you have really deep feelings for each other, you fall in love, you get married. What could be more simple than that? You know, we attend weddings and we watch as the happy couple exits the altar. We were once there. We know the happiness they're experiencing. We are eyewitness to theirs. We were eyewitness to ours. Yet we sit and ponder, where did it go wrong? When did my marriage start to become stale? When did it begin to smolder out like dying embers on an unstoked fire? What tricks did time play on our happily ever after moment in time? The dirtiest trick played on any couple is the one that's turned on us all. It's life. It happens. When we least expect it, life hits us smack dab in the face. You can be bopping along and all is well in the world, and suddenly, with no prior warning, he comes home with an attitude. Or maybe it was you that walked in the door with the attitude. Well, at least one of you has come home with the same good-humored manner you parted with this morning, but the other has not had such a good day, and brother, does it show. Tension begins to set in for the night. The ill and out of sorts party offers no explanation, let alone an apology for the way they've acted. The other just sets about their evening wondering, what in the world has come over you? Both go to bed feeling kind of sort of yanked around a bit. You don't settle in for the usual snuggle. In fact, you really don't want to touch each other's skin at all, so there's this distance in the bed. He's hanging on to his side and you're hanging on to yours. Another day comes and goes, and still the unresolved mystery behind the attitude of the previous day. Eventually, an apology of sorts comes along. Perhaps it was an apology. Or was it? You did kiss each other goodbye for work. But is everything really okay? Just kind of an unsettling feeling inside that you decide you're not going to worry about right now. It was just a bad day and everything will be fine when you get home tonight. Tonight, a bit more of the same chill enters the door. You feel that distance. Something you used to agree on becomes a divided cause. You find yourself snipping and yapping at each other over something very minor, something so insignificant that you can't believe you'd even spend time in exchange of words over it. Another distanced night in bed, clutching to its sides. There's a crack in your stronghold. Not much to speak of, but you know it's damaged. It's kind of like a chip in a favorite dinner plate, or worse yet, a family heirloom piece of china. The damage is done, yet you hang on to it because of its sentimental nature. And yes, we're all thinking the same thing. You know in the end what happens to chipped dishes. With wear and tear, constant use without attention, and maybe slipping that piece into the dishwasher time after time, you usually get further damage. Either a nasty crack sets in, and that pretty much does it with the plate, and you just kind of toss it. Or for the family heirloom piece, you just set it in the china cabinet and ignore it. Kind of tuck it away so that it doesn't get any further damage, but it's not used. And if you arrange its display just right, perhaps no one will notice the chip or the crack. The everyday dinner plate, you can replace that down the road. Besides, you're probably already tired of the pattern and you'll be replacing it pretty soon anyway. But man, you probably should send that piece of third generation china out to one of those restoration companies that could bring it back to its light new quality. That's a great idea, you think, and you neatly arrange it in the china cabinet for today, and you'll get to that later. Too many things on the agenda for the moment anyway. There'll be a more convenient time to take care of that little task. Out of sight, out of mind. Then you have guests coming for dinner and would love to put out your best for the night, so you reserve that chipped piece of china for yourself and arrange it just so in order that perhaps your guests won't notice that one's been damaged a bit. It seems that any time one piece gets damaged, something else happens to another. You become sick at heart about it, but instead of taking the time to restore it, it seems to lose its value a bit. That second chip, that second crack, it's really seen a lot of good days anyway. It's 1,000 wonders it wasn't damaged before now. Perhaps the prior owners took a bit more care of the china. But perhaps its prior owners just never really used it at all. You've certainly known of that happening, haven't you? I know Webby's mother has a set of beautiful china that she never uses. I twisted her arm when I threw a dinner party for their 65th anniversary and graced the table with their enchanting dinnerware. As I recall, she'd gotten it at her 25th anniversary. She confessed she had never eaten on it before. It had merely been on display for all the years she'd owned it. I use my china, all of it. When I have dinner guests, I pull out the best for them. I have 3 sets that I've managed to accumulate over the years. One set holds a more sentimental value than the other 2. It's not a family heirloom yet. It will be when I pass it down to my girls. It's just my favorite because it's a true reflection of my taste, so I tend to use it the most. I'm more careful with how I handle it, cautiously taking it out of the curio cabinet and placing it on the table. After we use it, Webby helps me hand wash and towel dry every single item, and I carefully place it back into the cabinet. While I'm cautious with the other 2 sets, I find myself a bit more carefree with the handling of them, and there have been accidents with them. The special set is a discontinued pattern. Nothing fancy or expensive, just my personal favorite. I'm certain you get the analogy that I'm making here. Your marriage, your spouse, is that irreplaceable heirloom. It's your heritage that will pass down for generations to come. How you care for the maintenance and repair of the chips, cracks, dings, and pings it's bound to encounter along the way is vital to its continuation. Ignoring its damage or hiding it away, arranging it such that it won't be noticeable, putting its repair off until some more convenient time, or waiting for the next chip to come along where it loses even more value. And you begin to thinking about maybe replacing it. Wow, how did we come to this? You have to admire the quality in our more seasoned generations like that of Mrs. Oglesby's. She hadn't used her china for the 40 years she'd possessed it. The veteran generations have always garnered and cared for their valued possessions. Living through wars and the Great Depression brought with it lessons of just how difficult good things are to come by. They treated brothers with kindness, had impeccable work ethics, knew all their neighbors and lent a helping hand when needed, never chose baseball over church, fed their preacher every Sunday, honored God and their country, were proud of their troops and the freedom they died for, practiced the art of sacrifice with dignity, and defined commitment with clarity and contentment. They valued, appreciated, and fought with every fiber within them for God, country, love, family, friends, and life. Paul tells us in Romans 12:9-21, love must be sincere. Hate what is evil. Cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another in brotherly love. Honor one another above yourselves. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with God's people who are in need. Practice hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of low position. Do not be conceited. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everybody. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Do not take revenge, my friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, "It is mine to avenge. I will repay," says the Lord. On the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him, and if he is thirsty, give him something to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. How far afield we have come. Look at the plight of our world today, not just the big world, that's far too encompassing for us to think about, but our little world, our community, our church, our workforce, our neighborhood, our home. What's happened in all of these facets of our little world is a flip coin effect. You have one group of people who get it. They understand God's principles as outlined by Paul. They not only get it, they live it. They wear the brand. They have balance in their marriage, with their children, their friends and neighbors, at church, at work, and in their community. Then you have the group that just doesn't quite get it at all. There's no sense of balance in their lives. They may be great at home, but a lousy employee or lousy neighbor or church or community leader. Or they may be a great community leader and even a great church leader. Great to their neighbors, always lending a hand when needed. An number one employee, but really lousy at home. And home should be the very thing that balances out all the rest. Wait a minute, you say. The Lord should be what brings balance. Indeed, you're right, my friend. And if God is first in your life, all these godly principles Paul talks about fall into place. We get one shot at life. We must make it count for good. And the only way you can make it count for good is to make it count for God. Please don't strain at a gnat here. I know life is eternal, but God wants our life on earth to secure our life in heaven with Him. Just like life, we get one shot at love. We need to make it count for something. We need to understand its value, to be reminded how difficult it is to replace, perhaps impossible. Why ignore its maintenance? Why disregard the chip when you could repair it immediately? It's not just casual dinnerware or even fine china. It's your marriage. It's your family history at stake. It's your heritage. You allow a little bit of damage here and there, continue to turn your back and hang on to the side of the bed, not dealing with issues, and pretty soon the sentimental value is decreased. Pretty soon you're thinking you'll just replace it down the road. Pretty soon the luster's gone and its worth is zilch, at least in your assessment, probably not your children's. And you or your spouse are looking for greener grass. Pretty soon you're on to your next one shot at love. The next time you go to a wedding, instead of pondering where the luster went in your marriage, try this one on for size. I sit at weddings and renew my vows to my husband, Webby. I silently recite, along with the bride and the groom, the vows that we recited to each other over 37 years ago. I envision myself standing there, his hand clutching mine, our eyes fixed upon each other, and I repeat after the preacher, I, Joyce, take you, Webby, to be my husband, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or for worse, for richer, for poor, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, till death do us part. When the bride and groom kiss each other, join hands and walk down the aisle, I pray for their love to flourish, to deepen, to be strong and everlasting. But I also praise God for my marriage, for sending me a man who has devoted his life to me, for keeping us solid and grounded in love and life through his principles, the very guidelines he laid out for our one shot at life and love. When we pattern not just our marriages, but hinge our lives on these godly concepts, what God has joined together, no man can put asunder. Love and life are right on target, and we can use our one shot to hit the bullseye at both. Thank you for joining me today. I continue to hear great comments about these two books, Keeping His Pants On Until He Gets Home, written for the women, Turning Her On and Keeping Her Heart, written for the men. They're designed not just for the troubled marriages, but for every marriage concerned about preserving their family history. They focus on maintenance of intimacy, not just sexually, but emotionally as well. Don't miss your one shot at love. Go to my website and order your bookends for marriage today. May God bless your days, your marriage, your life. I hope you'll join me again next week.